with me, I have the lovely Marit van Dijk, who has had two talks here, one up by herself and another one shared with her co-speaker Piotr. There's another video with him as well, talking more in detail about their co-shared talk. But I'm happy to have you here today with me, Marit, because I'd like to ask you, what have you been up to? How are you doing? Because I know you're doing a lot more things than just speaking at conferences, and maybe our audience would be interested to know about that. Well, because you're working with probably the most beloved tools by developer, or the most beloved tool by developer, IntelliJ IDEA. So welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. So yes, so part of my job is to speak at conferences like Devoxx UK this week. But part of my job is also to create other content on our tools, which obviously includes IntelliJ IDEA, but also JetBrains AI Assistant and JetBrains Junie, which is our new coding agent. So I also use those in my talks. Actually, we showed Junie today in our talk with Piotr, and I showed AI Assistant also today and yesterday in my talk on reading code. But other than speaking at conferences, as you know, we create other content. So we write blog posts. I write blog posts for the IntelliJ IDEA blog. I create videos for the IntelliJ IDEA YouTube channel. Like and subscribe. And just part of my job is also to give product feedback. So, you know, trying out IntelliJ IDEA, giving feedback, filing tickets in UTrack. Talking to the product teams about what they're working on, what improvements are coming, how we are then going to communicate that to everyone so that they know all of the amazing features that we are building and the improvements that we're doing. And talking to our users as well to get their feedback, to show them what we're working on, see how they like it, what feedback they have. So yeah, it's a very varied job, as you well know.
Yes, we try to juggle a lot of things, not all in the same time, but one at a time. But it's very varied.
It's never boring.
That's true. Something that, well, you mentioned now reading code. I had the pleasure to watch that talk several times, and I can see that every time you're making it better and better.
Thank you.
Yeah, and the audience has always like a really good, is learning something new from it. Although it seems like a bit weird to call a conference talk reading code. So, do we still need to learn how to read code? You think that, well, don't we all know how to do that?
You would think,
yeah.
But so we actually read code more than we write code, because we first usually need to understand the application that we're working on, maybe figure out, you know, for fixing bugs, we need to figure out what's going wrong and where, and it might be unexpected interaction between parts of the code, because, you know, if it was expected, you wouldn't have the bug.
Yeah.
But even if you're making changes to a code base, you need to figure out where am I going to make the changes, am I going to make that consistent with the rest of the code base. Or if you're learning about new technologies, obviously, hopefully you'll be reading code to try and understand how things work. So that's actually usually a bigger part of the job than actually writing the code. Part of it is also figuring out where to put the code and what code to write. So yeah, I do think that that's very important and still a part of our job. Also, if you're copy pasting from tutorials or Stack Overflow, or having AI assistants or coding agents write the code for you, you still have to understand that code, because if you commit that code, you now own it. So you better make sure that you understand what that code does, in my opinion.
Oh, all good points. Speaking about reading code and enhancing our abilities to read code, do you have any, I don't know, psychological or books that have helped you become a better code reader?
Yeah, so in my talk, I talk about the work of Feline Hermans, who is a professor of computer science education in the Netherlands at Vrije Universiteit Amsterdam. And she started a code reading club with a few other people where they deliberately practice code, because we all learn programming by writing lots of code, and then we get a job, and it turns out actually we also need to be able to read code, but we never explicitly practice that. So I really love this idea of, hey, if this is an important skill, why don't we deliberately practice that? And I've been doing code reading clubs for about 2 years. It kind of petered out by now, but we did it for about 2 years, and I learned a lot from that. And Feline has also written a book called The Programmer's Brain, or What Every Developer Should Know About Cognition, which is very, very interesting. And it talks about like reading and understanding code, but also, she's a professor again, so a lot of it is very research based. So she talks about research that says, what makes good variable names. So it's not just opinions on what would make a good variable name. It's what they've actually researched, what makes a better variable name, how to apply that then to your code base, how to make naming consistent throughout your code base, because if it's consistent, it's going to save on, mental cycles, which is easier to understand. If it's easier to understand, it's easier to maintain, etc. So
true, and indeed, we're writing code for other fellow colleagues of ours, which are still human. And although we were in the era of the AI, and the AI is gaining a lot more traction in generating code and understanding our contexts, AI is trained on our code most of the time. So
which is unfortunately not always as perfect as we would like it to be.
So we're still having more, let's say, we have more helpers, but those helpers are learning from what we've done before. So we still need to read code well and think about how others will read code, regardless if they're humans or AI.
Yeah. And actually, some of my favorite AI assistant features are not to write the code, because that's the part I actually like. But AI assistant also has features to explain code, explain regex. The plural of regex is regrets, as we like to say. Explain cron fragments, SQL, but also write documentation, which we don't always like to do, but can also be a really good way to get a concise description of what does this class or method do. So even if I'm not intending to write the documentation to actually keep it, it can be a good way to get a summary to understand the code, kind of.
So that's where you use the AI assistant during your talks, right? To help you gain a better understanding, and not just for code generation.
Yeah, I mean, code generation is nice, but I already have a pretty good IDE with good code completion. JetBrains do pay me, and so it's all of the ways that the AI assistant can help me understand the code, but also it can help me understand, for example, what's wrong. If there's an error message in the console, there's a little icon to explain this error to me, which will open a chat and tell you, hey, this is why this error is thrown, this is maybe how you can fix it. So it can also help you more quickly analyze problems. You can use it to explain commits, which can be useful if you're trying to figure out, hey, what happened here? Or you want to get a summary. Obviously, you can look at the diff to see what actually happened in the code.
Yeah, but now that you have something analyzing that for you.
Yeah, it's sometimes, I'm a very top-down, so I like to have like kind of the big picture and then look at the details, so as to not get overwhelmed with all of the details at first. So I like getting a summary of what happened in this commit, or maybe in these commits. And then if I need more detail, then I can go to the changes in the diff. But it's easier to understand those if I have a bigger picture or a general understanding of what happened.
That's a very good point, and all great advice, by the way.
Thanks.
So, folks, reading code sounds very interesting. I know that you did a very playful talk with Piotr. Do you want to say a bit about that talk for our audience as well? What did you aim with your second talk here at Devoxx UK? What will you hope for the audience to grasp more about Java?
Yes, so the talk was called Learning Modern Java, the Playful Way, because we are friends and we have a lot of fun together. So, and the same weird sense of humor. So we talk about how we stay up to date with Java, hopefully to inspire you how you can stay up to date with Java, what you can get from or gain from upgrading to later versions, not just nice language features that make the language both easier to use as a developer, but also as both Mark Reinhold and Brian Getz said during Java 1, you're working on making the language more readable, which, you know, is a topic I care about. So all of the new language features make the language easier to use, easier to read, but also the improvements make give you performance enhancements, make your code run faster, therefore cheaper, which might be ways to convince your bosses to let you upgrade, even if you don't use all of the new language features. So we hope to inspire you to at least play around with new Java versions, new language features in a nice IDE that also has features that can help you upgrade to newer Java versions.
Yeah, like being productive and staying up to date sounds like a great combo to me. Like,
yes, who doesn't want that?
That's the dream that we all want to live every day.
Especially if you can do that while having fun.
True.
Then everybody wins.
So definitely a talk to watch. Another video for you guys to watch. Folks, we'd like to thank Marit for taking her time to join me on the seat today. Stay tuned. Watch the videos on the Devoxx channel. By the way, Marit is very present on the social media, so she's reachable. As she said earlier, her role involves, getting feedback and sending that feedback further to the teams that she's working with. So if you have questions about her content, her talks that were here, but not only her talks in general and her work, I think she's welcoming that feedback. She's welcoming those questions.
Yes,
I know that I am bothering her sometimes with questions.
That's okay. I bother you too.
So be curious and reach out to experts like Marit and ask those questions. Very approachable. And then, enjoy the rest of the videos from our Devoxx UK channel. Thank you, Marit.
Thank you, Anna.